And welcome to Impact Information, the Scramble for Africa. I'm Taylor, and today we're going to be looking into the European conquest of Africa, as well as two essential questions. 1. How can greed and exploitation have negative side effects? And 2, if you believe what you're doing is right, does that mean it's actually right? Let's start by setting up the scene. This scramble for territory occurred between the 1880s and the 1910s. At the Berlin Conference, called by Otto von Bismarck of Germany in 1884, European imperial powers split up Africa into many territories amongst themselves. They did not have any African people present, and they divided the territory with no regard for cultural, lingual, or religious differences among the African people. Why did they do this? Multiple reasons. First, the Industrial Revolution caused a serious need for resources, such as gold, copper, salt, and diamonds, which the African territory was rich in, and land, since the European continent was incredibly overpopulated and they needed to spread out. Second, European people needed access to trade. For example, Britain claimed Egypt to gain access to India. Third, Europe at the time was full of imperial powers fighting to hold their places as world powers and spread their influence across these savage nations outside of their continent. To provide more context, Ainsley will be reading an excerpt of George Washington Williams' letter to King Leopold II, who had control of the Congo.
Here I have an open letter to His Serene Majesty Leopold II, King of the Belgians and Sovereign of the Independent State of Congo by Colonel, from the Honorable George W. Williams of the United States of America, written in 1890. Good and great friend, I have the honor to submit for your Majesty's consideration some reflections respecting the independent state of Congo, based upon a careful study and inspection of the country and character of the personal government you have established upon the African continent. I was anxious to see to what extent the natives had adopted the fostering care of your Majesty's benevolent enterprise, and I was doomed to bitter disappointment. Instead of the natives of the Congo adopting the fostering care of your Majesty's government, they everywhere complained that their land had been taken away from them by force, that the government is cruel and arbitrary, and declare that they neither love nor respect the government and its flag. Your Majesty's government has sequestered their land, burned their towns, stolen their property, enslaved their women and children, and committed other crimes too numerous to mention in detail. It is natural that they everywhere shrink from the fostering care your Majesty's government so eagerly proffers them. Against the deceit, fraud, robberies, arson, murder, slave raiding, and the general policy of cruelty of your Majesty's government to the natives, stands their record of unexampled patience, long-suffering and forgiving spirit, which the boasted civilization and professed religion of your Majesty's government to the blush. During the 13 years, only one white man has lost his life by the hands of the natives, and only 2 white men had been killed in the Congo. Major Bartolot was shot by a Zanzibar soldier, and the captain of a Belgian trading boat was the victim of his own rash and unjust treatment of a native chief. All of the crimes perpetrated in the Congo have been done in your name, and you must answer at the bar of public sentiment for the misgovernment of a people whose lives and fortunes were entrusted to you by the August Conference of Berlin, 1884 to 1885.
Thanks, Ainsley. As you can see, the treatment of the African people by their European conquerors and colonizers was incredibly poor. Let's take a closer look at 3 of the countries colonized in this time. Namibia, located on the southeastern coast of Africa, was conquered by Germany. Germany took over the country in 1886 and changed its name to Southwest Africa, a directionally correct name, but definitely uncreative and a waste of energy. In 1904, the genocide of Herero and Namakwa was waged by the German military, killing between 50 and 65,000 Herero people and 10,000 Nama people by 1907. This cruel rule of the nation lasted until the First World War, when the German military became otherwise occupied and South Africa conquered Namibia. This rule lasted until the UN refuted this control in 1946, and in 1990, Namibia became a fully independent country once again. Slightly north of Namibia, Congo was a unique country in this time period. The territory, instead of becoming a colony, was privately owned by King Leopold II of Belgium in 1885. He was the king, but he owned Congo separately from the rest of the Belgian government and parliament, who knew very little of his doings in the country. Leopold used his private army to force native people to extract rubber from rubber trees, a time-consuming and draining process. This army would punish people for any reason with incredibly cruel punishments, including cutting off hands, rape, torture, and murder. They caused tens of millions of deaths during the time of Belgian rule in Congo. In 1908, this violence became public, and the Belgian government was pressured to take Congo away from Leopold. Congo then remained under Belgian rule until the 1960s, when they finally gained their independence. South Africa was first colonized in 1652 by the Dutch for settlers. From 1899 to 1902, Britain took over in the Boer War because lots of gold was discovered in the area. South Africa was not only rich with resources, but an important strategic base to protect one of Britain's other developing empires in India. South Africa gained independence in 1912, but the Constitution denied black rights and kept white authority in the government. In 1994, black people were finally able to take power with the election of Nelson Mandela. All of these countries show very well the mistreatment and abuse of African people by European colonizers during the Scramble for Africa. Now, let's look at our essential questions from the beginning. First, how can greed and exploitation have negative effects? Europeans, who were blinded by the things they could gain from the African continent, did not fully see the Africans as people and abused them for power and monetary gain. Second, if you believe that what you are doing is right, does that mean it's actually right? And obviously the answer is no. Moral correctness is incredibly subjective. The Europeans were able to justify their actions as they did not see the Africans as people, and they were being benefited by what they were doing. However, just because they gained much from their conquest, they were still murdering, abusing, and enslaving innocent people, which by anyone's definition is incredibly wrong. Overall, the Scramble for Africa was a time of chaos and conquer for everyone involved. And this has been Impact Information, the Scramble for Africa. Thank you for watching, and have a great day.